Hi everyone, welcome back to Won't Shut Up. I'm Megan and I'm from New Jersey.
You need to leave!
I know what you might have heard, but honestly, New Jersey's not so bad. I promise. To prove this, I have started a series on the Won't Shut Up blog and social media accounts called New Jersey's Not So Bad, where I go to different local businesses and Jersey hotspots to prove to everyone that living here is not as bad as everyone thinks it is. While making my list of places to visit, I remembered that Jersey has its own devil, and I'm not just talking about myself or the hockey team. So I did a little deep dive on this local legend, and now I won't shut up about the Jersey Devil. Before we get into things, thanks for listening to the Won't Shut Up podcast. You can find the blog and other New Jersey's not so bad content at won'tshutup.com. You can find Won't Shut Up on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest at won'tshutup_. Now, let's get into the Jersey Devil himself. The Jersey Devil has been haunting New Jersey for over 250 years. According to Weird New Jersey, the Jersey Devil is the state's oldest, most enduring, and most important folklore. While it's rumored the creature has ruined crops and slaughtered animals, it hasn't hurt anyone. It's just scared the absolute shit out of them. There are many variations of this creature's origin because it's been passed down through centuries. While the specifics of the story may vary, the story's setting remains the same: the New Jersey Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens is the ecological term that describes the unique ecosystem and the natural treasure that covers most of southern New Jersey. This area is filled with acidic, low-nutrient water and soils, hence the pine in the barrens. But there's plenty of plants and wildlife that have adapted to the challenging conditions in this area, so the pines aren't really that barren. It's a fucking woods. The Pine Barrens make it sound like it's like a bunch of burnt down trees and like dead plants everywhere. It's a full lush forest, all right? There's like plenty of wildlife there. They make it seem a lot more spooky than it is. It's not. It's just the woods. Simply the woods. There's a specific place within the Pine Barrens where all the origin stories originate. It's called Leeds Point in Galloway Township. Whoa, did you just hear my accent come out? It's called Leeds Point in Galloway Township. God. It's called Leeds Point in Galloway Township in Atlantic County. The most popular origin story tells the tale of the Leeds family. In the early 1700s, Deborah Smith immigrated from England to marry Daniel Leeds, or Japhet Leeds. Japhet, Japhet. The name of Mr. Leeds varies, and it's not important. He's not important. What's important is Deborah Smith became Mrs. Leeds. She then quickly became Mother Leeds after giving birth to 12 children. Yeah, you heard me. 12 children. Leeds is the name of one of Jersey's earliest settlers, hence Leeds Point, and many descendants of the Leeds family can still be found throughout the state to this day, so the Leeds family's existence is very much fact, not fiction. With descendants all over Jersey to this day, I believe the 12 children fact has also just been proven because, I mean, hundreds of them, thousands, are probably running around. 12? According to the legend, Mother Leeds was not living her best life. Besides the stinky living conditions of the 1700s, Mr. Leeds was an alcoholic who made little effort to provide for her, and he didn't take care of his children at all. So when she found herself pregnant with her 13th child, it was understandable that she was a little disappointed and a little stressed. So she cried out, "If I have a 13th child, let it be the devil!" There are many variations of what she actually said since the story has been passed down for centuries, but the "let it be the devil" portion is included in every single recount of the event. She did not want to have a baby. She cursed that baby and said, "I'd rather have a devil because that's what's coming out of me." All right. 13? After 13 of them, I'm not seeing babies anymore. That's for sure. Then on one cold February night in 1735, she went into labor, not even thinking about the curse that she said months before. Mother Leeds and her midwives were in one room delivering the baby, while her husband and her other children were in another room. Rumor has it that the baby was born a perfectly healthy baby boy. However, within minutes, the curse became reality and the baby started to change. It transformed from a healthy, newborn baby into a hideous, unearthly creature. It flew around the room, and some stories say it immediately flew up the chimney and into the woods, but others say it flew at its mother and the midwives. It clawed at them, it bit them, it tore some of them, including its mother, apart limb from limb. The monster then knocked down the door and traveled to the next room where its father and siblings cowered in fear. It then attacked them, killing as many as it could. Those who survived reported that the creature flew up the chimney and destroyed it on the way out. It escaped into the darkness of the woods, leaving nothing but rubble and blood in its wake. Dun dun dun. Another version is that someone was trying to convince Mother Leeds to convert from Quaker to Protestant, I believe. Catholic to Jehovah, believe it or not. When she refused, the clergyman told her that her next child would be an offspring of Satan. And then it was. Another story tells the tale of a young girl living in Leeds Point who had fallen in love with a British soldier. The British are coming. The British had come to the area. Sorry, I was getting my Paul Revere on for a second. The British had come to the area for privateers, which I learned are just pirates who work for the government. Not really, but like kinda. When the Battle of Chestnut Neck took place in 1778, the people of Leeds Point opposed the two getting together and called this an act of treason. Revolutionary War Romeo and Juliet, if you would. They cursed her, and she later gave birth to a child known as the Leeds or Jersey Devil. The final version of the story I will be sharing is a sad and probably the most realistic one, unfortunately. Clearly, people in the 1700s were not as aware or knowledgeable about childbirth and child development. People often believed that a child born with disabilities was the result of a curse from God or a demonic being. The story of the Jersey Devil could have been the result of people's superstitions and judgment, and the tale was just twisted over time. While descriptions of the creature vary, he is most commonly described as having the body of a kangaroo or horse, the head of a dog, the face of a horse, large leathery wings, horns or antlers similar to those of a deer, a forked reptilian tail, and talon-like claws. There have been countless stories passed down about the devil's doings. The devil raided chicken coops and farms, destroyed crops, and killed animals. While it has been seen by people and, quote, attacked them, it has not killed a human being, ever. But people who have seen the beast are, quote, credible in the community. What I mean by that is their reputation would be questioned, their job would be questioned if they just started talking nonsense about this giant bird that attacked them in the woods. This includes police officers, government officials, local business and homeowners. People traveling down the Garden State Parkway or the Atlantic City Expressway have reported sightings of the devil or some sort of mysterious creature for years, like hundreds of years. The creature first appeared in print in the Atlantic in May 1859. Hannah Butler is one of the locals mentioned in the article. She said she had a, quote, personal interview with the Jersey Devil while strolling the woods during a lightning storm. Hannah Butler? First of all, read that. I thought it was Hannah Baker. I was like, damn, that was her 13th reason why. She said, Jersey Devil, welcome to your tape. But Hannah Butler, I know Butler is probably because that's what her family did at the time, and that's just why her last name is that. But Hannah, thinking of somebody having the name Hannah in 1859 is pretty crazy. Why is it not like Genevieve, Josephine, Bernadette? Hannah Butler? Hannah Butler was like walking in the woods and all of a sudden she saw the Jersey Devil and I was like, no freaking way. That was her quote to the Atlantic. I saw the freaking Jersey Devil and he was like, hey, what's up? And we like talked for like a little bit and it was like super fun. And yeah, it was like fine. He's like, no big deal. I don't know what everyone's so afraid of. It's like no big deal. Everyone already knew about the Jersey Devil before this interview that Hannah Butler had where she was like, what? Like it's hard? It's hard to run into the Jersey Devil in the middle of the woods during a lightning storm? He has been heard howling and screaming at night since 1835. Some of the earliest sightings included Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother and former king of Spain. According to the legend, he was hunting alone near his New Jersey estate when he saw some peculiar tracks on the ground. They looked like they belonged to a horse or a donkey, but the animal was walking only on its hind legs for a long period of time, not like a horse like kicked up and then went back down on all fours, like walked for a long time on its hind legs. He followed the tracks until they ended abruptly, as if the animal had jumped into the air and flown off. A strange hissing noise then came from behind him, and he whirled around, then came face to face with an animal he had never seen before. He said it had a long neck, wings, legs like a crane with a horse hooves at the end, stubby arms with paws, and a face like a horse or a camel. He froze, and for a minute, neither of them moved or even breathed. Then the creature hissed and flew away again. Bonaparte later told his friends what happened, and they filled him in on the local legend. Until he returned to Europe, Bonaparte is said to have kept a sharp eye out for the creature whenever he was in the woods. He literally wanted to kill it and take its body as a trophy. I hate men. That is such a manly thing to do, and I hate it, but it's also really funny to think of him in the woods, always on guard with some sort of like knife or like stake or like gun or something, because he is like ready to hunt this animal, and like every single noise or like creak in the woods just scares the shit out of him. That's funny to think about. He's like killing rabbits and deers because he's like, the Jersey Devil! Oh my god, I'm so scared! The most infamous Jersey Devil haunts occurred in January 1909 when over 30 different sightings were reported in 1 week. It started in Trenton, New Jersey when Councilman E.P. Whedon claimed to have been woken up by flapping wings outside of his bedroom window. He also reported to have found cloven footprints in the snow. Not even a day later, more reports of strange tracks in the snow started emerging from all across the region, including large cities like Camden and Philadelphia. The mysterious footprints went over and under fences, through fields and backyards, and across the roofs of houses. Like, people would hear clanking on their roofs and then go out the next day and see giant hoof prints on their roofs. Honestly, if I saw hooves on my roofs, I would freak the fuck out. That's pretty scary. Panic immediately began to spread, and groups of hunters and trackers formed. Once again, I hate men, but also like could definitely see that, like pitchforks and all. It was reported that bloodhounds refused to follow the creature's trail, which terrified hunters, which also makes me think that maybe there just wasn't a trail. Like, what do you mean they refused to follow it? Were they crying? Were they yelping? Or were they just like not moving? Because like, if they're not moving, then maybe they just don't have a scent because it doesn't exist. They're like, oh my god, the bloodhounds aren't hunting anything. They must not want to go because they're so scared. And it's like, no, there's nothing to hunt. There's nothing there. The Jersey Devil sightings caused schools to close throughout southern New Jersey and Philadelphia. Yeah, schools fully closed. Mills in the Pine Barrens were also forced to close because workers refused to leave their homes and go through the woods to get to work. They literally were too scared to go to work and said, I'd rather lose my job than lose my life to the Jersey Devil. Until this time, most of the stories of the Jersey Devil were passed down by word of mouth. However, there are many published police and newspaper accounts during this week in 1909. They took the story of the devil from folk belief to authentic folk legend and a creature that everyone was genuinely terrified of. Sightings throughout this 1 week spanned across the Delaware River from New Jersey to Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. Here are just some of the reported sightings from that week. Eyewitnesses spotted the beast in Camden, New Jersey, and in Bristol, Pennsylvania. In both cities, police shot at it but did not manage to bring it down. A few days later, it reappeared in Camden, attacked a social club, and then flew away. Only a few hours prior to that attack, it was in Haddon Heights, New Jersey, terrorizing a trolley car full of passengers before it flew away. Witnesses claimed it looked like a flying large kangaroo. Another trolley car full of people saw it in Burlington, New Jersey when it scurried across the tracks in front of their car. It appeared on the roof of a house in West Collingswood, New Jersey. It was described as an ostrich-like creature. Firefighters used their hose on it, but it attacked them and flew away. It reappeared later in the week in Camden, where a local woman found the beast attempting to eat her dog. How sad. She hit it with a broomstick, though, and it flew away. Notice how all of them are ending with, it flew away, it flew away, it flew away. But sometimes it didn't fly away. People reported that livestock, particularly their chickens, were being slaughtered, so it did not flew away for those chickens. While there hasn't been another week like the one in January 1909, numerous sightings of the Jersey Devil have continued to be reported to this day. The most common report is strange, unidentifiable tracks in the soil in desolate areas of the Pine Barrens. People just don't really know what's making hooves. They claim that the footprints are of a strange bird. Others say they closely resemble hoof prints. Although, whatever it is, it walks on just 2 legs. It's walking upright like a human. It is not on all 4s. That's what makes it creepy. It's less frequent, however, people have caught glimpses of old JD himself within the past 100 years. While researching this topic, I found this insane show called Monster Quest, which is essentially Ghost Adventures but searching for monsters. It's just as dramatic and absurd as that show. It's awesome. This episode of Monster Quest centers around the Winkleman family, who had an encounter with the Jersey Devil. The family lives in Wharton State Park in the Pine Barrens. In January 2004, Lori Winkleman went outside with her son to turn off the Christmas lights. When she looked at her son, he looked terrified. He pointed to something up in the tree behind Lori. The beast swooped down and Lori ran with her son into the house. She then heard the creature on the roof of her house. The next morning, they saw footprints in the snow, exactly where she said they would be. The tracks were unbelievably big, so they took pictures and brought them to the New Jersey Office of Fish and Wildlife. They couldn't even explain the footprints. According to officers, it looked like the animal that made those tracks would have weighed around 200 to 400 pounds. It's hard to tell if this actually happened or if this show is all just for theatrics because they literally hooked the 2 witnesses to a polygraph test. I'm not kidding. Monster Quest wants to confirm they are telling the truth about what they saw, so they hook them up to a polygraph test. This show is insane. They also put together a 60-person team to investigate the Pine Barrens. I'm not joking. The search started at 6 a.m. and they take it extremely seriously. It's almost as if they are looking for a missing person. They see a deer and it is like they are seeing something so mysterious and insane. They're like, is it a doe? Is it a doe? You know how many fucking deer are in New Jersey? Who cares if it's a doe? It's a deer. A female deer. You can find this episode of Monster Quest on YouTube. I also have it linked to the article written on the Won't Shut Up blog. If you just want to go to that and find this video, you just watch the search part. You don't even have to watch the full episode. Just watch the part where they go into the woods and they start searching for this creature as if it is a missing person. The way they take it so seriously, I hope that they're actors. Honestly, it would be really funny as somebody who lives in New Jersey if I got some sort of message through my town that was like, Monster Quest is coming to hunt the Jersey Devil. I would go. I'd be there at 6 a.m. full camo and be like, yeah, we're getting the Jersey Devil, because that's funny. That's so funny. So I was going to say, I hope that they were actors, but no, hope that they live there. I hope that they're authentic Jersey people that was like, Monster Quest is coming to film in our town. Let's go see what's up. There are retired NYPD officers who have nothing better to do with their pensions involved with this show, and they interview someone from the NJ Auburn Society. They want to make it seem like there are not a lot of explanations for the Winkleman incident, but the person they are interviewing lists about 15 animals it could have been. Foxes, deer, owls, cranes, literally the most monotone list of animals that it could be over the devil. And the retired detectives are like, yeah, but the hoof prints are very big. And they're like, yeah, you'd be surprised how big owls are. yeah, we would be surprised how big owls are. They also have another expert explain that there are a lot of similarities between the reported sightings of the Jersey Devil and the hammerhead bat, which is indigenous to Africa and is also really big and really scary and also looks pretty much exactly like what everybody describes as the Jersey Devil. I watched another video from the Real History YouTube channel, which is also linked on the article on the blog. This film crew interviews Jerry Plumeri, who encountered the beast in 1964. Jerry was in the car with two of her friends coming home from the Jersey Shore. They were in a convertible with the top down, and she heard a blood-curdling scream. She looked to a tree and saw two red lights, which she later realized were the creature's eyes. It began swinging from tree to tree. Then it flew right in front of their car and they slammed on the brakes. All three people in the car just stared at the creature. They were too scared to scream and they were too scared to back the car up. She claimed the monster was 8 feet tall with the head of a horse and horns. His long arms had claws at the end of them. The body was decrepit and similar to a horse, but it was up on its two legs and the legs were crooked in the back. He sprouted his wings and he flew into the forest. Jerry is convinced that she saw the Jersey Devil. Rochelle Christopher is a local historian who was also interviewed for this video. She explained that there are many cults in New Jersey that believe in the Jersey Devil. Since the Leeds family is the most common origin of the creature, many people want the Leeds family house, and the owner of the house wants nothing to do with those people or trespassers or anyone who is interested in using the house to conjure up any spirits. That's why I'm not telling you the address or anything about the house. Because they don't want nothing to do with us, so I'm not even mentioning it. I'm going to rapid fire through some more sightings and facts about the Jersey Devil before we start wrapping this up. This is just one of the many first-hand accounts published by Weird New Jersey, which is another thing linked in the article on the website. This is from Sunny Z. Let me tell you a sighting of the Jersey Devil. I was driving up Route 9 in Bayville at around 10 p.m. There were two cars in front of me and we were traveling about 35 miles per hour. To the right of Route 9 is a mini mall type building with woods behind it. To the right is all woods. All of a sudden, I saw this big thing run across Route 9. It looked like one of the classic pictures of the Jersey Devil. It had no tail, no fur, its ribs showed, and it had a long, odd head with short ears that laid flat. It looked almost 10 feet tall. I noticed it because the first car stepped on its brake, as did the second car. When I looked ahead, I saw this thing galloping across Route 9 and straight into the woods. I was not really scared because it didn't register yet. I stopped to mail something in the mailbox about 300 feet from the main road, and I saw a child's shirt, shorts, and one sneaker lying on the ground. I mailed my letter and ran to my car and laid rubber all the way home. I was certain that I had seen the Jersey Devil. No one believes me. They say it was a deer. I have never seen a, quote, deer that big, that fast, or that weird looking in my life. What is really creepy is that the other two people in front of me stepped on their brakes, so they must have seen it too. Yeah, they probably did see it, but who said it was the devil? Throwing it back, in 1870, a fisherman in Long Beach claimed he saw the devil serenading a mermaid. I think maybe the mermaid was serenading him. In 1939, the Jersey Devil was designated the official New Jersey state demon, the country's only demon. Why would there be more? James McCloy and Ray Miller Jr. wrote in their book, The Jersey Devil, that the townspeople had an exorcism on the creature in the 1740s and banished it for 100 years. In 1840, it, quote, reappeared right on schedule. Ooh. In 1978, two teenage boys were ice skating near Chatsworth in the Barrens and smelled an odor like dead fish and saw two red eyes staring at them. They didn't stay around to investigate, but claimed they had an encounter with the Jersey Devil. There have been plenty of bounties and rewards put out for the creature, dead or alive. In the 1800s, Superintendent Robert D. Carson of the Philadelphia Zoo offered a $10,000 reward for the creature's capture. In the 1800s. $10,000 in the 1800s. At one point, as much as $100,000 was offered for the capture of the Jersey Devil. According to the Asbury Park Press, a man living in Howell Township encountered the Jersey Devil in 1981. He described the creature as having a furry body, huge feet with 3 toes on each, large teeth, and stood about 6 feet tall. A number of people have claimed not to have seen the devil, but to have heard him, rampaging through the woods or emitting blood-curdling cries. That's what a lot of people say, just a lot of screaming. After the 1909 appearances, the scientific community was asked for possible explanations for what the hell everybody saw. Reportedly, science professors from Philadelphia and experts from the Smithsonian Institution thought the devil was a prehistoric creature from the Jurassic period. New York scientists thought it may be a marsupial carnivore. However, the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia could not locate any record of species resembling the Jersey Devil. But, others would report it could be the Sandy Hill crane. They're like, there's no report of anything that looks like the Jersey Devil ever. And 50 years went by and everyone's like, it could be the crane. It could be this crane right here that looks exactly like what everybody is terrified of. The Sandy Hill crane stands 4 feet high and can be up to 15 pounds. So it's a little bit smaller than everybody reported, but it has an 80-inch wingspan and is known to be very ferocious when cornered. So I feel like if you're getting attacked by a giant bird, you might get the details mixed up. You might think it's a lot bigger than it is when it's got giant ass wings that are flapping at you. The history and the tales of the Jersey Devil have been passed down for generations, so it is spread throughout the state and embraced by many. It has been largely commercialized. It's been portrayed in toys, comics, t-shirts, and is even the subject of its own feature film. Most famously, the Jersey Devil has inspired the name of the state's hockey team. Duh. Now that I've gone over the history and told some of the stories about the Jersey Devil, I would like to highlight the underlying lesson to be learned through this folklore. While I was inspired to talk about the Jersey Devil because of my New Jersey's Not So Bad series, I was also inspired to talk about it after finding this article on JSTOR Daily titled "Birthing the Jersey Devil." The description for the article is as follows, quote, "For centuries, a fork-tailed mythical creature that lurks in the pinelands of the Garden State has served as a reminder of the horrors that result when reproductive freedoms are destroyed." That being said, I want to do a little disclaimer here. We are switching from the hee-hee-ha-ha story of the folklore and switching into the lesson to be learned of the folklore. So we're going to be switching to a more, I don't want to say polarizing, but a more serious polarizing topic that is reproductive rights. So if you do not want to discuss that and you were just here for the hee-hee-ha-ha mythical story time, thanks for listening. Bye. See you next time. You don't have to listen if you don't want to. I'm just saying we're going to get into a little bit of a convo that not everybody would choose to be a part of. And you don't have to choose to be a part of that because that's the blessing of choice, is you don't have to choose to be a part of something if you don't want to be a part of it. So if you choose to not be a part of this part of the podcast episode, that's totally fine. And that is your choice. That being said, please don't choose to send me a hateful, disgusting message if you don't agree with my opinion on reproductive rights, because I told you to choose to get the hell out. Now that I said that disclaimer, I feel like I can get into it. I just feel like I had to say that disclaimer because I was talking about hee-hee-ha-ha, runs in with the Jersey Devil, spooky story, and I didn't want to be like, reproductive rights are under attack without giving the disclaimer that that's where the conversation is going. You know what I mean? The author of this article, Catherine Churchill, explains that this folklore falls under Ghanaian horror. Film and media scholar Erin Harrington explains that this horror is concerned with all aspects of female reproductive horror, from reproductive and sexual organs to virginity, pregnancy, birth, motherhood, and menopause. It makes me feel a little bit better about Stephen King. I feel like he's not a pervert. Churchill uses the film Rosemary's Baby as an example of this type of horror and connects the Jersey Devil to Rosemary's Baby. Both stories criticize forced birth. The events of the devil's origin story supposedly took place in the 1700s, but the myth of the Jersey Devil began to circulate in the 1800s when American reproductive rights were under attack by the legal system and the medical establishment. Abortion was being brought into the public eye, and the Jersey Devil's origin story's emotional backbone is an unwanted pregnancy, a mother's anger, and a curse. if you're going with the story of mother leads, which most people do. The story of the Jersey Devil falls under what folklore scholars Joan Rander and Susan Lanzer refer to as a coded tale. Coded tales are stories that encourage multiple, even contradictory interpretations to protect the creator from a dangerous consequences of directly stating particular messages. This is a hallmark of feminist folklore since it allows the storyteller to convey ideas that are controversial or forbidden by camouflaging morals and ensuring the story reads differently to different audiences. This is literally the original, if you know, you know. You know? For example, listeners who are hostile toward reproductive care may see mother leads as self-centered or uncaring, and the person who is to be blamed for the creation of the monster. However, others may just see her as a victim of circumstance. The circumstance being the lack of reproductive care that would have allowed her to control whether or not she had a 13th child. She wouldn't have had to scream out, "Oh God, let it be the devil. I'd rather have a devil than a fucking baby." She would have just said, "I'm not having this baby." Or she would have said, "I didn't even get pregnant." With limited means for preventing pregnancies, some 19th century Jersey women turned to abortion as a means of controlling reproduction. There was literally nothing else to do. Prior to the 1840s, abortion early in pregnancy was seen as an acceptable means of birth control, long tolerated under English common law. Hellebore, pennyroyal, tansy, and other herbs I'm sure I'm mispronouncing have been used for centuries to treat, quote, blocked menses and end pregnancies prior to what was referred to as quickening, which is when a fetus first moves. During the 1830s and 1840s, newspapers ran ads for female monthly and lunar pills to end pregnancies, and new devices for surgical abortion were invented. They were very much progressing in reproductive care. However, abortion quickly came under scrutiny across the U.S. At the time, white men dominated medical schools, associations, and other sections of medical practice. In New Jersey, degree doctors competed for business with self-taught herbalists such as James Still, whose success in South Jersey as the, quote, Black Doctor of the Pines made white physicians very angry and jealous. As part of the movement to limit medical practice to those with official credentials, aka white men practicing white man's medicine, university-trained doctors started to stoke fears about the safety and ethics of abortion. This has been the domain of Black and female healers, midwives, and other seasoned but unlicensed practitioners of gynecology. In 1849, New Jersey instituted its first law against performing an abortion. In newspapers, abortion providers were often slandered as evil and devil-like. In an 1872 book titled Satan in Society, abortion is referred to as a, quote, monstrous heresy. An illustration from the National Police Gazette depicted real-life abortion provider Madame Rosette with a winged baby-eating devil. This baby-eating devil resembles the Jersey Devil. They made this caricature of this abortion provider with a winged devil-eating baby, and it looks exactly like the Jersey Devil. And you're telling me there's not a lesson to be learned from this folklore? And you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? The Jersey Devil exists in the context of all which that have come before you. When the Jersey Devil first began to entertain listeners in parlors and dinner tables, abortion was effectively criminalized for the first time in the United States. While the spooky stories and the devious adventures of the Jersey Devil are fun to share around the campfire, I think it's really important to highlight the lesson to be learned from this folklore and truly recognize how the Jersey Devil came to be and why. I would like to wrap this up with a quote from Catherine Churchill, the author of the JSTOR article, because she really does it justice, and I really couldn't have said it better myself. Quote, "A society without choice is monstrous. Just ask Mother Leeds." That's all I've got to say about the Jersey Devil. I will finally shut up about the terrifying creature, but I will not shut up about the important message it is trying to convey. Let me know if there are other folklores or creatures you would like me to explore. I had a lot of fun researching something spooky and paranormal, and I honestly did not know all the variations of the origin stories or the lesson to be learned from the folklore, so it opened my eyes to a lot of reasons that made Jersey kind of bad, but also not so bad. Check out the blog, won'tshutup.com, and all of the social media accounts at won'tshutup_. Let me know what you won't shut up about. Thanks for listening to me. Never shutting up. Bye!